Helen Jones.
Helen Jones.
BBC Radio Merseyside.
Now at 8 minutes after 4, Ofgem have visited the Wallasey base of the charity Energy Project Plus. And it's all part of their redress scheme. Energy Project Plus are an organisation that offers support to families and homeowners struggling with energy expenses, educating the public on how that they can be more energy efficient. They're just one of the hundreds of charities that have been offered funding by Ofgem through money the regulators collect from fining various energy companies. So far, 125 million has been collected. Our reporter for BBC Radio Merseyside, Tom Pridgeon, has been speaking with Ofgem CEO Jonathan Brierley about his visit to the Wirral.
We've had an incredible day so far. I started the day by talking to an innovation conference about all the change we need in the sector. And one of the messages I wanted to give there was, yes, there's a lot about new technology. Yes, there's a lot about what we need to do for the future. But actually, there are things we need to do here and now for some of our most vulnerable customers. So I'm delighted to be coming to places like Energy Projects Plus, where we really see community-level projects making a real difference on the ground. Now, what gives me pleasure and what gives me a great deal of pride is the funding for this organisation comes from some of the fines that Ofgem levies when companies don't behave according to the rules. So it's good to see that money being ploughed back into communities to deal with some of the big problems that I know customers have today.
So you've been around on the Wirral for a few hours now. So what have you seen and where do you think this money would be best served going into?
Well, look, we've been to a local shopping centre where the team here are working hard to reach out to people to help them deal with their energy bills. There are some very simple things all of us can do to make sure we manage our energy as well as we possibly can. To give you some simple examples I saw today, putting something behind your radiator that reflects the heat back into the room instead of into your wall, make sure you make maximum use of the heat that you have. Using energy efficient light bulbs, or even just having something on your wall that tells you the temperature of your room so you know, for example, if your thermostat is set too high. These things will make a real difference when we're struggling with our bills.
Ofgem are sort of seen as fighting the good fight, but what commitment are you making to people not just across Merseyside but across the country about how you're going to tackle the misdemeanours of various energy companies?
Well, look, we have doubled down hugely on different parts of the sector to make sure that companies do stick to the rules. To give you one real basic example, last year we had a company where half of their customers were dropping off the phone because they simply couldn't get through. We fined them £5 million. Part of that's come to projects like this, but most importantly, that company have changed their behaviour and now are doing things very differently. Now, Ofgem's job this winter is to be vigilant, to be careful and to make sure we are understanding what the suppliers are doing. Principally, we want to work with them to do a good job, but if they don't, we have the enforcement powers to back that up. And those enforcement powers lead to projects like the one we see here today.
Now, I also want to talk a bit about this coming winter.
Sure.
People are again worried about energy prices and how are they going to heat their homes sufficiently. What sort of little things would you give to people in this area at this time?
So look, all of us are worried about our bills. I know many people are out there. And the honest answer is, unfortunately, there is turbulence in the international markets. Some of the things going on in the world, including what's happening in the Middle East, are pushing prices back up again. Now, what I suggest people do, first of all, do get in touch with projects like this, because this project here will help you manage your energy use. But equally, make sure you talk to your energy supplier. There is help and support out there. There's something called the Warm Home Discount that can take £150 off your bill if you qualify, if you're in a vulnerable group. Equally, suppliers can make sure as far as possible you can manage your bills and get yourself onto a plan that you're able to pay. So I'd encourage everyone to make sure you're looking at your energy use, making sure you're making the most of what you have, but also get in touch with your supplier if you're struggling. They are your first port of call. If you don't get through, if you're struggling, there are great charities out there like Citizens Advice and others who will help you make sure you get the help you need.
Now, we all saw in the news recently about the price cap, but from the Ofgem's perspective, how does the price cap affect your day-to-day running and how will it affect the average homeowner?
Well, when we look back and think about why was the price cap introduced, it was introduced because many of us don't switch supplier, many of us stay with the supplier that we have. And back in 2015-16, they were making huge profits over and above the cost of energy that they were having to pay. Now, what the price cap can't do, though, is change the underlying cost of that energy. So unfortunately, when international gas prices go up, the price cap goes up. But equally importantly, when those prices come back down again, then the price cap goes down. So in terms of day-to-day, what we can say, it's a reasonable reflection of the cost in the market, but ultimately it does change as that market changes. That's why it's so important that customers get access to all the help and support that's out there. That means working with community groups like Energy Project Plus, working with charities like Citizens Advice, making sure all of us get the help and support we need.
We talked about potential changes there. For many people who are thinking maybe about moving homes or even existing homeowners, what does the future then look like?
So over the next sort of 10 or 15 years, we all need to move to a much more stable, low carbon system. Now there's huge changes in the system as a whole. There's going to be more wind farms, there's going to be more renewables. But for our home, it probably means being open-minded to new forms of heating our home. So, for example, there is something called the Boiler Upgrade Scheme, which gives each household £7,500 discount on installing what's called a heat pump. Now, that's an electrical system, not a gas system. It works very, very differently, but that's the sort of thing we can move to in the future, in my mind, to make sure we get to a more stable energy market and hopefully one that's more affordable for its customers.
And this is something that Ofgem will continue to campaign for?
Absolutely. So we campaign for all sorts of things. We have energy efficiency schemes, we have heat pump schemes. What we want to do is make sure everyone out there knows they're available and gets everything they need.
That is Jonathan Brierley, the Ofgem CEO, talking to our reporter Tom Pridgeon.